What if I told you that no matter where you live, who you live with, or who surrounds you, you can build a community that helps you heal? In this episode, you'll discover why connection shows up so often in remarkable recovery stories, how love, friendship, and emotional support influence survival, and how to begin building your own healing circle today, even if you live alone, isolated from others, or already have a circle of friends that you just don't know how to include in your journey. I'll walk you through all of it in this episode. When someone receives a serious diagnosis, one of the first instincts is often to turn inward. You may not want people to see you sick. You may not want to have to explain the diagnosis again. You may not want to manage other people's fear, sadness, opinions, or advice. And you may not want to feel like a burden. You might not want to be watched, pitied, questioned, or treated differently. So you pull back. And honestly, I understand why. But one of the most consistent patterns I see in remarkable recovery stories is this. People rarely heal in isolation. Again and again in stories of remarkable recovery, community and relationships play a role, and a significant role. In most stories, there is someone, a spouse, a friend, a doctor, a therapist, a prayer or support group, a neighbor, a child, a person who writes or calls or emails there exactly at the right moment, even a pet. Sometimes it's a whole community, sometimes it's just one person, but that one person can become a bridge back to life. If this episode resonates with you, you may want to go back and listen to episode 6, 3 Ways Community Heals Your Body and Protects Against Disease, or you may appreciate episode 47, How Purpose and Connection Change the Course of Illness. The story I want to share in today's episode comes from the book Remarkable Recovery by Carol Hirschberg and Mark Ian Barashk. The man in this story is Conrad Hazen, known to many of his friends as Connie. Before cancer, Connie was a dentist in Florida. He was 46 years old, a husband, a father, a church deacon, a Sunday school teacher, and a man who seemed to have built a good and steady life. He had grown up in a large family. He had played tennis with his wife. He worked out with his son. He had a thriving dental practice, a comfortable home, and a deep Christian faith. He felt that he was where God wanted him to be. And then everything changed. Connie was diagnosed with an inoperable cancer involving the upper right side of his lung, and further surgery revealed the kidney tumor from which it had spread. His physicians removed what they could, including one kidney and part of his intestine, but they had to leave behind a large mass. His doctors told him there was nothing more they could do and that he should get his affairs in order. And Connie did. He planned his funeral. He paid for it in advance. He chose the coffin. He selected the preacher. He wrote a final letter to his wife and sons. He sold his dental practice and prepared in every practical way he knew for death to come. Radiation therapy brought only minimal shrinkage of the tumor. The tumor was causing agonizing nerve pain. His body, overwhelmed by disease and pain medication, eventually slipped into a coma from liver failure. His family was called to his bedside to say goodbye. But while Connie's body appeared almost gone, he later described a near-death experience that was completely real to him. In this vision or dreamlike state, he was lying in bed while everyone he had ever known came in, one by one, to hug him. The door kept opening and closing. Person after person came to him, telling him they loved him, saying goodbye. And then, by his account, the Lord came in and placed a shining golden key in his hand, telling him it would unlock the secret of life if he would but look at it. Back in the hospital room, Connie's wife and children were grieving. Without warning, a doctor rushed in and gave Connie an injection of adrenaline in a last-ditch effort to bring him back. Connie bolted upright, still absorbed in what he had just experienced. He reached towards his wife, handing her the invisible key he still thought he held, and told her he did not need it where he was going. When she asked where that was, he said he was dying. Then he wrapped his arms around his wife and told her he loved her, over and over for 2 hours. Eventually, Connie regained consciousness, but he was sent home with only weeks to live. His 6-foot frame had been reduced to about 80 pounds. He was too weak to stand in the shower. He refused to let friends see him so emaciated and in pain. He was horrified by the idea of becoming, in his mind, a burden to his family. He even contemplated suicide. And then a letter arrived. A friend wrote to him gently and lovingly, acknowledging that Connie might not want people to see him in his condition, but they reminded him that he was still lovable, still worthy of being seen, still a man his friends wanted to be near, even in a body that had been devastated by disease. That letter became Connie's bridge back to the mainland of friendship and community. So, Connie announced to his family that he had decided to fight. He said he would die trying, but he was going to try anyway. And he started with baby steps. Literally, he started with walking. At first, he could barely make it from the front porch to the end of the sidewalk. But one day, he made it. And then he made it around the block. Excited, Connie called a friend to celebrate, and the friend encouraged him to do it again. Little by little, Connie began coming back into life. Some weeks later, he accompanied his wife to her mammogram appointment. A radiologist who knew his situation saw him and was stunned he was still alive. "What are you doing here?" he asked. Dumbfounded, the radiologist decided to take a chest x-ray of Connie on the spot. When the technician brought the image out, the doctor thought there must have been a mistake, but it was Connie's x-ray. The tumor had completely disappeared. All that remained was scar tissue. Connie slowly regained his strength. He started a landscaping business with his sons, and eventually he reopened his dental practice. The man who had planned his funeral went back to everyday life. Connie's story is clearly a story of faith, but it is also a story of community. From the moment he was diagnosed, he was surrounded by an extraordinary web of love and support. His wife, Marilyn, stayed close to him, prayed beside him, and cared for him. His oncologist was not a stranger in a white coat, but actually one of his closest friends, someone who had known him since high school and stood beside him at his wedding. When he was sick, his high school classmates had even moved their high school reunion earlier because they believed he might not live long enough to attend later, and they wanted the chance to tell him how much they loved him. This is what makes Connie's story such a powerful testimony to community. While Connie's remission cannot be reduced to social support, it clearly played a significant role in his recovery. Connie also demonstrated several of our healing pillars. His faith mattered deeply to him. His own decision to fight mattered. Movement and rebuilding strength mattered. The radiation may have contributed something. We don't know how to isolate the pieces, but it would be impossible to tell his story honestly without noticing the role that love and friendship played in it. And over again in remarkable recovery stories like this one, I'm struck by the power that one person holds. One person who says the right thing at the right moment, the one person who believes you can still fight, the one person who helps you research or takes you to the appointments or gives you a reason to take that next baby step or continue a second time around the block. Sometimes that one person becomes the pivotal center of healing. Community is often spoken about as though it is mainly emotional support, and it is, and that matters. But connection is also biological, and it influences our physiology in very real ways. We were made and designed for community. We evolved to be surrounded by a tribe. When a person feels alone, this is against the nature of our evolution, and this discordance registers as an ongoing stressful event. The body often responds accordingly. But when someone believes that they are not alone and someone is with them, then the internal environment can change. This is psychoneuroimmunology at work, the study of how the mind, nervous system, endocrine system, and immune system interact. Research has repeatedly shown that social relationships are linked with health outcomes, immune function, inflammation, stress response, recovery, and mortality. The quality of connection matters, of course. The healing power is in relationships where there is safety, honesty, affection, support, trust, and the ability to tell the truth. Safe connection helps regulate the stress response. When you are facing serious illness, the body is in survival mode and is constantly scanning the environment for threat, just like it would if you were a tribesman alone in the jungle and heard a twig snap. Every symptom, every scan, every appointment, decision, and unfamiliar sensation can activate the same survival systems that were designed to help you escape that danger in the jungle. The brain sounds the alarm, the sympathetic nervous system turns up, stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline rise, heart rate, blood pressure, muscle tension, sleep, digestion, and immune signaling all shift in response. If you are carrying all of that alone, then the body may stay in that alarm state for far longer than it was ever meant to. But when someone safe is with you, something different happens. Whether it's a calm voice, steady eye contact, holding a hand, or knowing somebody's praying for you or sitting beside you in the waiting room, that support tells the body and the brain that your threat is not being faced alone. There is literally safety in numbers because historically 2 or 3 people could fight off a tiger much more effectively than one could. That idea is woven in the very fabric of our biology. So support reduces the stress response, lowers our internal sense of danger, and helps the body move out of constant survival physiology. Secondly, connection influences inflammation. Chronic loneliness keeps the body in a defensive state. Because the nervous system perceives isolation as danger, it can increase inflammatory signaling and make the immune system behave as though the person is under ongoing threat. In the short term, inflammation is protective. It helps the body respond to injury and infection. But when inflammation stays elevated for too long, it can drain energy, worsen pain, disrupt sleep, affect mood, and create an internal environment that makes healing harder. This is one reason supportive relationships matter so much. Connection communicates safety, and safety helps the body spend less energy defending and more energy repairing. Thirdly, social connection can influence immune function. Immune cells respond to signals from the nervous system and the endocrine system. Stress hormones and nervous system chemicals can change how immune cells move, communicate, inflame, defend, and repair. Chronic social stress can be associated with patterns of immune activity that favor inflammation while weakening parts of antiviral defense. This matters because the immune system is one of the body's central healing systems. It helps clear abnormal cells, respond to infection, regulates inflammation, repairs tissue, and coordinates recovery. Additionally, community can affect the behaviors that determine whether the body is actually supported with what it needs to heal. This is because somebody else makes the soup and makes sure you eat. Somebody else sits through your appointments with you and takes notes. Somebody else can call the insurance company, research one question instead of leaving you to drown in 1,000 tabs at midnight. Someone else can remind you to eat, drink water, sleep, breathe, walk to the mailbox, or ask the doctor the question you were too overwhelmed, tired, or brain foggy to remember. So it's not just emotional comfort, it's practical support that changes what a sick person is able to do. Community also protects hope. Hope is not only an idea, it changes your behavior. A person with hope is more likely to participate in their healing journey, try again, and stay engaged in life. But hope is hard to hold alone, especially if pain, fear, fatigue, or discouraging medical news becomes overwhelming. Sometimes we need someone else to hold hope when we cannot hold it ourselves. And finally, community can call us back to the parts of life that disease tries to erase. It can reduce your whole life to a diagnosis, a scan, a treatment plan, or a prognosis. Connie was not only a cancer patient, he was a husband, father, friend, dentist, Christian, classmate, and man who was deeply loved. And his community had to help him remember that. They did not let the diagnosis become his entire identity. And that matters because healing is not only about what happens to the tumor, the scan, the lab values, or the symptoms. Healing is also about whether the person remains connected to life and purpose. Now, there's another side to this conversation, and it's important, and that is that not every relationship supports healing. Sometimes serious illness reveals which relationships are safe and which ones are not. Some people respond with love, and some respond with fear or control. Some become angry when you make choices they don't understand. Some push treatments or protocols because they cannot tolerate their own anxiety. Some disappear because they don't know how to face suffering. And some require so much emotional and energetic management that being around them drains the very energy you need to heal. That doesn't mean you have to cut everyone off, but it does mean you're allowed to protect the environment around your body. If someone's presence makes you feel smaller, more ashamed, more fearful, more pressured, or less connected to your own inner knowing and innate wisdom, that matters. If every conversation you have with those people leaves you exhausted, you need to pay attention to that. And if that person cannot respect your agency, take note. Because sometimes the healing move is not simply adding community, sometimes it's changing the quality of the community around you. That is not selfish. That is stewardship of your healing environment. If you're listening to this right now and wondering where you could even begin, I want to offer you some practical steps. Some may be isolated because of the extent of their illness or because of where they live, and others may have tons of people in their life but not really know how to build them into a supportive community. So let me walk you through some practical things you can do to begin building your own healing community. The first is to identify one safe person, just one. someone who can hear the truth without immediately taking over or becoming controlling, someone who helps you feel more like yourself when you talk to them, someone who can sit with your fear without drowning you in theirs, someone who respects your choices even if they don't understand or agree with them, someone who reminds you that you are still you and is encouraging. If you have that person, let them in. Tell them, I need someone who can help me carry this without trying to fix everything. Could you be one of those people for me? The second step is to ask for specific help. People often say, let me know if you need anything, and they mean it. But that sentence puts the work back on the sick person. Instead, give people jobs. Ask someone to drive you to an appointment. Ask someone to organize your records. Ask someone to make food for you. Ask someone to take your kids to school or to their events. Ask someone to research a question you've been wanting to look into. Ask someone to pray for you at a certain time. Ask someone to text you every morning with one reason to keep going. Truly supportive people who care about you will want to be involved in your healing journey. They just need some guidance on how to do it best. The third step is to build a small healing circle. This might include one family member, one friend, one practitioner, one person who can pray with you, one person who can help with logistics, and one person who can make you laugh. It doesn't have to be formal, it doesn't have to be big, but it helps to know who belongs in which role. Not everyone should be allowed into the most tender, intimate places. Some people are meal people. Some are appointment people, some are prayer people, some are laughter people, some are crisis people that you call an emergency. Let them help in the ways they can actually help best. The fourth step is to let yourself be seen even before you feel ready. Connie did not want his friends to see him weak, thin, and in pain. Many people feel that way. They want to wait until they look better, feel stronger, or have better news. But love does not require any of this. Sometimes the moment that heals something in us is the moment we let someone see us at our absolute worst and discover they do not turn away. The fifth step is to protect yourself from the relationships that drain your healing energy. If someone is pressuring, shaming, dismissing, frightening, or constantly making your illness about their emotions, you are allowed to create healthy boundaries. You can say, I cannot talk about this today. You can say, I need support, not fear. You can say, I am making this decision with my care team, and I need you to respect that. You can say, I love you, but this conversation is not helping my body heal. You can maintain a relationship and distance yourself from them at the same time. It's okay to do that. The most important thing is that you are able to heal. That is your priority, your health, not everybody else's. The sixth step is to find community beyond your immediate circle if you need it. Not everyone has a spouse, close family, a church, or friends who know how to show up. If that is you, it may mean your healing circle has to be built more creatively. Look for a support group, whether it's online or in person, a faith community, a therapist, a coach, a practitioner, a local class, or even just one person who understands serious illness from the inside. Chosen family counts just as much. And the final step is to give love where you can. Love is not only something we receive, it is also something that reminds us we are alive. A text to someone you love, a prayer for another person, a thank you note, holding someone's hand, telling your children what they mean to you, letting your spouse know they are not failing you. Love moving through you is a powerful part of healing too, and it makes room for more love to arrive. Connie Hazen's story shows us that when a person has been told to prepare for death, one letter can call him back towards life. One person praying beside their hospital bed can matter. One friend can help you take another lap around the block. And a community can remind you that you are still loved, seen, and here. And sometimes that love becomes part of the mystery of remarkable recovery. That is why community is one of the central pillars of Renegade Remission, because human beings are not designed to heal in isolation. We are relational beings. Our will to live is strengthened by love, purpose, and belonging. And when the body is fighting for life, being held inside a web of love may be far more powerful than we have been taught to believe. If this episode helped you feel less alone and more empowered, follow Renegade Remission so you can stay connected to this larger healing conversation. We are walking through the pillars that show up again and again in remarkable recovery stories: nutrition, movement, stress, mindset, emotional healing, trauma, purpose, and community. If someone came to mind while you were listening, act on that instinct and send this episode to them. And if you'd like support between episodes, I'd love to invite you to join my email newsletter. Every week, I share practical healing tools, reflections from the podcast, and encouragement for your healing journey. You can sign up through my website, therenegadenutritionist.com. See you soon, and until then, go be renegades.